Hey, Jovan here with your free college basketball steno clip play for Saturday, December 6, 2025. Now, you know it's here at Pick Dawgz. We love giving out free picks. But if you want my best bets, the best that I'm putting in today, go to the website, pickdawgz.com, where you can find my or one of our other world-class handicappers picks for today. Now, like what we always do, let's recap and look back what happened last night. And yeah, the steno clip took a fall last night with High Point. They didn't get the job done at all. First half, they were halfway there with that 31.5 point spread at plus 150. But in the second half, they coasted. They were content with having a zero-sum second half against this opponent. And yeah, it shouldn't have been on there in the first place. There were better places to be as far as this new clip, but hindsight's 2020. And like the great one used to say, you were foolish and you lacked vision. So yeah, we didn't get there and got to do better with that. But we've been rolling on this steno clip, as you know, so we'll get right back to it. As for the two-teamer didn't hit, and we took a shot with the Bearcats of Cincinnati, and we shouldn't have been there. They haven't won in that building in the last 20 years, and why take a shot, in this one? That was really the post-mortem on that. My thinking on that one was, they took a bad loss to EMU a couple games ago, and, this was a rise-up spot, to have fewer doubters for them, but they didn't get it done. They did play competitive basketball, but in the end, they couldn't get over the hump. So they took a L against the Musketeers, and that's that. I had eyes on the North Texas Tulane game, the AAC championship game, and look, North Texas, they weren't going to win that game. They shouldn't have won that game. But when they were down 24 points, they had a chance, or they made a play defensively that would have changed the trajectory of that game, or at least the momentum. Tulane was going into the end zone for another score, but a North Texas defender put his head down, helmet the ball popped out, and it went through the end zone for what should have been a touchback. The referee, who was right there, I might add, called it a touchdown. Now in real time, you're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though he was right there and should have seen that the ball was jarred loose prior to the Tulane player going into the end zone. But this is why they have replay. They've had replay for decades. You should be able to get these calls right. He did not, or the officiating crew did not get this call right. Bottom line, there was conclusive evidence. I don't care about the angle. You can piece it together frame by frame and see that the Tulane player was not in the end zone. He did not cross the goal line, and the ball was jarred loose prior to him entering the end zone. It's clear. They called inclusive evidence, or they actually said, I believe they said confirmed, but the call was not overturned, and they went from a 24-point lead to a 31-point lead, and that was really the ball game. North Texas made a valiant comeback because they're a hellified offensive team. They brought it to within 10 points, and wouldn't it have been more interesting if we saw them with a 3-point deficit as opposed to a 10-point deficit? But, they made the wrong call, and that was that. Now, Tulane was the better team. They made more plays. North Texas got in their own way. They had turnovers, punts that hit their players. And in that play that I'm talking about, that was another play where the punt returner got obliterated while the ball was still in the air. That should have been a penalty. But like I said, they weren't going to win the game regardless of those two calls. So, just my 2 cents on that one, because you see it time and time again across all leagues, these referees and these decisions that they make, and then inexplicably when they go to replay, the call gets upheld. But let's go to the Extendo clip play of the day, where we will go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the Santa Clara Broncos are facing the New Mexico Lobos. And this is an interesting matchup. Two good teams, in my opinion. We have Santa Clara coming out to a hot start like they usually do, 8-1 this season. Not really many marquee wins to speak of. They played Minnesota of all teams. I guess that was their biggest win. Xavier. These aren't teams that are gonna really do anything this season once they get into conference play. But they did get the job done, and their only loss was to St. Louis a few games ago. New Mexico, they're a decent team as well. 6-2, 2-5 against the spread though. That's not good. But they're playing in the pit where they're undefeated, and they have a long history of success in their home building. So that right there for me tips the scales, and I'm looking to move their line through 0 considerably. It's the line opened up at -2.5, 3 in favor of Santa Clara, depending on where you call it at. And it is now sitting at 3.5 in certain places. So we're looking at this, 2.5, 3.5, somewhere around there, but we're gonna move this line through 0. And we're gonna be conservative with this one. We're just gonna move it 5 points because it is through 0. So we're gonna give the Lobos a shot at -2.5 at +155. This is just a situation where I'm looking at it, this team rises up at home. They get the job done. They play better in their own confines. And Santa Clara, quite frankly, they're going to have to prove it to me a little bit more before I believe their record is legitimate. It's really that simple. So let's reiterate this one real quick. That'll be New Mexico, the Lobos, -2.5 at +155. Book a cash or do what you got to do with it, but go to the website, pickdawgz.com, where you can find my or one of our other world-class handicappers' picks. Now smash that like button. Let's get this money and hit the book where it hurts.